All right, welcome to The Explainer. This is where we break down big, complex ideas. And today, wow, we are diving deep into a question that's right at the core of what it means to be human. The question is, what makes something good?
So let's just jump right in with a puzzle that philosophers have been chewing on for centuries. What actually gives something its value? I'm talking about anything, an object, an experience, heck, even your own life. Where does its worth come from?
Okay, to get our heads around this, just think about the difference between a winning lottery ticket and, say, a cherished family photo. The lottery ticket, it's valuable, for sure, but only because it's a tool, right? It gets you something else, money. But that family photo, that's valuable just because it is. You value it for its own sake. And you know what? That simple little distinction, that's the key that unlocks this entire field of philosophy we're talking about today. Value theory, or if you want the fancy term, axiology.
So let's really get a handle on this. We're going to need to break down a few of the core ideas. Basically, value theory is the systematic study of what's worthwhile and why. It's not just about ethics, what's right and wrong. It's actually a much bigger question. It's about the whole concept of goodness itself.
And believe me, this is not a new question, not by a long shot. The ancient Greeks, they were totally obsessed with this. They were constantly trying to figure out the highest good, the one ultimate goal for human life, that one thing that makes everything else worth doing.
All right, let's get into the core mechanic of value theory. See, philosophers start by splitting value into two main categories. And this goes right back to what we were just talking about with the lottery ticket versus the photo.
So here's the crucial distinction. Is something good in and of itself, or is it just a stepping stone to get something else? Think about happiness. It just seems valuable for its own sake, right? You don't need another reason to want to be happy. But money? Well, it's just paper, isn't it? It's only valuable because you can use it to get something else.
It's a really simple idea, but it's incredibly powerful. You use a tool, that's your instrumental value, to get something that you value just for what it is, that's your intrinsic value. And of course, it's almost never just one step. It's usually a whole chain of these things. For example, you go to work, that's one tool. To get money, that's another tool. So you can buy food, yet another tool. All so you have the energy to spend time with your family, which is the thing you actually value for its own sake. See how that works? That whole chain is held up by that one final, intrinsically valuable thing at the end.
But this is where it gets really interesting. These two categories, they're not always separate. Some things can actually be both. Take health or knowledge. It just feels good to be healthy, right? And it's great to know stuff. That's intrinsic value. But being healthy and smart also helps you achieve other goals. So they have instrumental value too. Okay, so if some things are just valuable in themselves, then where does that value actually come from? Now we're getting to the heart of the debate. This is where the different philosophical camps really start to form. Right, so philosophers have a few competing theories here. You've got the hedonists, they say it's all about one thing and one thing only, pleasure. Then you have the desire theorists, who say, nope, it's even simpler than that. Value is just getting what you want. And then there are the perfectionists. They're looking back to guys like Aristotle, and they argue that true value comes from, well, perfecting ourselves, from flourishing and reaching our full human potential. And to test these ideas, philosophers love to use these wild thought experiments. One of the most famous is Robert Nozick's experience machine. It's a huge challenge to that simple hedonist idea. He asks, what if you could plug into a machine that would give you a lifetime of perfect, pure pleasure? Any experience you desired. Would you do it? And what's fascinating is, a lot of people say no, which kind of suggests we value other things beyond just feeling good. Things like, I don't know, an authentic connection to the real world. Okay, and this brings us to what is probably the deepest, most controversial question in this whole field. Is value something that's actually out there in the world for us to find, or is it something we just make up? This is the big fork in the road. Are values like stars in the night sky, objective things that are out there waiting for us to discover them with a telescope? Or are they more like paintings, things that wouldn't even exist if we humans didn't create them? So in one corner, you have the value realists. These guys believe that some things are just objectively good or bad, period. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks or feels. For a realist, a statement like torturing puppies for fun is bad isn't just your opinion, it's a cold, hard fact about the universe, just like water is H2O.
But in the other corner, you have the anti-realists, and they argue that, look, without us, without minds to do the valuing, the universe is completely neutral. It has no value. For them, when you say kindness is good, you're not stating a fact, you're basically just cheering. It's like saying, yay, kindness. It's an expression of your feelings. We are the ones who project value onto the world through our choices and our emotions.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. This is all super abstract, who cares? But trust me, these ideas have huge, real-world consequences. Our unspoken assumptions about what's valuable, they shape pretty much everything. Take ethics, for example. Your personal theory of what's valuable is the engine that drives your entire moral compass. I mean, if you believe that pleasure is the only thing that's intrinsically good, then you're probably going to be a utilitarian, trying to create the most pleasure for the most people. Your value theory literally defines what you think is right and wrong.
And you see the exact same thing in economics. Different ideas about where value comes from create completely different economic systems. Think about it. Where does the value of a diamond come from? Is it the amount of labor it took to dig it out of the ground? Or is it simply how much somebody wants one more of them? How you answer that one question totally changes how you think about prices, markets, the whole shebang.
Psychology gets in on this too. Psychologists actually have models, like this one right here, to measure what we prioritize in life. This map of values shows how our internal priorities, things like openness to change over here versus conservation over there, are all connected, and how they drive our behavior and even shape who we are.
So when you get right down to it, understanding value theory, it's like getting a secret map to the hidden motivations behind all human behavior. It's a silent operating system running in the background of our own lives and, really, of our entire civilization.
And that brings us to the end of our little explainer. So I'll leave you with this to think about. What about you? What are the things you value? Are they just tools to get something else, or are they ends in themselves? Do you think you discovered them, or did you invent them? Ultimately, what values are guiding your life?